God says, strive, stay on the right side, or religious jihad or spiritual warfare is to stay on the side of God, whatever happens. It's something that has to do with much energy. The word jahada is used in different senses, even in modern Arabic, for the voltage in electricity, for example, the tension. So the idea is here that we are in a tension between two powers, that when we stay on the side of God, we are like protected. It's like when you take a piece of a magnetic something and you put it between two pieces of iron. And when you come close to one of them, immediately the attraction grows and the other loses its attraction. And that's the same with God. If you come close to God, the devil loses his attraction against us. This is the jihad we have. This is the only jihad the Quran knows. Beautiful. And it is said, by the way, this jihad is the cult of Abraham. That's the religion that Abraham had. Abraham, the common father of both religions, Islam and Christianity, through the Jews, of course. The cult of the religion of Abraham, through submission to God, through tension to stay at any price, at any cost, on the right side in this spiritual war. That's why it is called here the spiritual way, the straight way, the way that brings to God, the way that God has chosen for us. But we'll talk more about this, so don't worry, this is just a beginning. Let's take another text from the Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, this time verse 256, where the Quran says, there is no compulsion in religion. This is a text that all Muslims knows and should know. La ikra fi ad-diniya. No compulsion, no force. Remember the story of Aladdin. Only freedom. Without freedom, there is no love. Love always gives freedom. God opens the cage and gives the devil the right, the chance to prove his affirmations. And in the same way, God gives you and me the freedom to follow Him or not to follow Him. And the right way to follow Him is to follow the way of Abraham, as we have read. My dear friends, we have the choice here. We're not talking about becoming Christian as if you're a Muslim, or become a Muslim if you're a Christian. But just follow the way of Abraham, the way we are going to study in the following chapter of this series. Let's go to the next text, a beautiful one, taken from Al-An'am this time. This is Surah chapter 6, where he said in verse 161, 162, say, verily, my Lord has guided me to a way that is straight, a religion of right, the path of Abraham, the true in faith, and he certainly joined no gods with Allah. Say, truly my prayer and my service of sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah, the cherishers of the world. Beautiful text. God asking us here in the Quran for a decision. The decision to follow the way of God, the way that Abraham already followed. Abraham was a Hanif, fighting, going against the crowd, moving in the other direction, not the direction that everybody takes with the stream of the water, but going against the stream, swimming like a living fish, going the straight path, the way that God has chosen for those who want to follow Him. Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, again, Surah 2, verse 117. To Him is due the primal origin of the heavens and the earth. When He decrees a matter, He says to it, be, and it is. Here we come to the point where the war comes down from heaven to that planet. It seems that God has given the devil a chance to show his affirmations by being on that planet. And in the same way, like in our story, Hans would give the lady the freedom to follow him or not, and Carl the possibility to show his affirmations. But in the same way, Hans would try to show his love in the best possible way. We see in the Bible and in the Quran that God has created the world, this planet, in a very special way, showing his love to the whole universe. We have read a text from the Quran. Let's take another text, this time from the Bible, from the Psalm Zabur, which is Psalm 33, saying about the same thing. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. The text continues saying, let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. I want to read this time another text from the Quran, Surah 7, Al-Araf, where it is said, your guardian Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and is firmly established on the throne. He draws the night as a veil over the day, each seeking the other in rapid succession. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, all governed by laws under his command. Is it not his to create and to govern? Blessed be Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the world. Here the Quran affirms the 6 days creation. God has created everything and has created so beautiful that we should bless his name for this. On the 7th day, he went, sat down on his throne as a sign that he should be worshipped on that day. We come later on to that idea. But right now, let us remember that the Quran, like the Bible, speaks about a creation of everything by God in 6 days. The parallel text to this is found in Genesis chapter 2, when it is said, on the 7th day, God ended his work which he has done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God has created and made. Before chapter 2, there's chapter 1, which is the beginning of the Bible. For those who don't know the Bible, you open it and you find in the first chapter the story of creation. How God created everything in 6 days. And at the end of every day, he said, it was good. Why was it good? Because God is good. Everything that God has created was perfect, beautiful, genius. You see, everything we do as human beings is just copying nature. Whatever we invent is not an invention. Actually, it's just discovering something that exists in nature and trying to copy it. Leonardo da Vinci, for example, saw the birds flying and tried to develop a kind of airplane for his time. Everything in science is taken from nature. Art is also taking examples and inspiration from nature. Even the laws of the universe, the laws of physics, mathematics, all the physical laws we find are just not invented, but discovered because they are always already existing. Everything is beautiful what God has made because God has done everything out of love. You know, if we ask a child, for example, let's say a little girl, and we say, what do you like to draw with a pencil? And she would say, I like to draw dolls. We would ask her, why do you like to draw dolls and not airplanes or cats or dogs or whatever? And the answer is clear. She likes drawing dolls because she likes dolls, right? In the same way, we can ask, why did God create you? Why did God create me? And the answer is very simple. God created you because he likes you. We could say he loves you, but let's first say he likes you. He likes the way he created you. He has a plan for you. God created you for you to be in eternity with him, a special piece, a unique piece in his collection. That's why he created so many different kinds of animals, birds, everything, but also different kinds of people with different faces, different colors, different characteristics. That's so beautiful to think that you and I are very special in the eyes of God. This is what God did. And that's why we should rest on the seventh day. He said, because God created heaven and earth. As the Quran says, He sat down on His throne. In the same way, on that day, we should acknowledge His power, His goodness, His love toward us, to have created us and also to sustain us every day. God is not someone who created something like a watch and He sells it or gives it away and doesn't care about the future of the battery and how it's going to work. We have no battery. I have no battery in my heart. And nobody tells me in the morning to wake up or how to breathe. It's just coming automatically, and no scientist can explain that. We say it's a reflex. It's just an habit. It's just, we talk about instinct, when animals know exactly the way they should go, how they should behave. But what is an instinct? It's something a baby bird, a baby animal knows, because God somehow is teaching us, is teaching even our heart, if I may say so, how to beat, how fast, and so on. So God is sustaining the universe. You see, every day we can read in the newspapers that there are accidents on the road. But we never read that there are accidents between the stars. Even though the stars move very fast, and of course they are very far from each other, but still the rapidity of their movement should, logically, statistically speaking, cause a lot of collisions. But we know that if just the planet Earth moved a few kilometers, a few miles away or closer to the sun, life would not be possible anymore. Just a few kilometers compared to the hundreds of thousands, millions of kilometers we are away from the sun. Everything seems to be so precise that the smallest difference in the universe could cause chaos. But God is taking care of that in a perfect master plan. And that's why we're worshiping. Another text in the New Testament, in Revelation, says, Revelation 14, verse 6, that there was an angel flying in the midst of heaven. He had the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. And he said with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of the judgment has come, and worship Him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and springs of water. Let me tell you that fearing God here doesn't mean we should be afraid of God. We should tremble in front of Him. No. The idea is we should respect Him. We should admire Him. We should stand in awe in front of Him, who is so just, such a genius, we can say, who creates everything much, much better than anybody can do. No German, no Japanese can create a hand or an eye. Only God can do this. No engineer, nobody can do this. This is the perfect world, and that's why we should worship Him. It is said here, worship Him who made heaven and the earth and the sea and the springs of water. What a wonderful God we have. When we look at nature, we're just amazed. Again, the fourth commandment taken of the Old Testament, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, and so on and so on. Why? Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Let's go back to the Quran, and of course we'll compare the message here with the Bible. In both books we see that God has created the world in 6 days. On the seventh day He is expecting adoration from His creatures. God has created everything beautiful with love because He is love, and we should bless His name, we should honor Him because He is the Creator. Now let's go to the next step, where God has created something very special in creation. Something that is called the crown of creation. And you know what it is? This is you and me. Let's turn to the Quran again, Al-Hijr. This is Surah 15, where He said in verse 28 and 29, behold, your Lord said to the angels, I am about to create man from sounding clay, from mud molded into shape. when I have fashioned him in due proportion and breathed into him of my spirit, fall down in obedience unto him. Against here we have the text where God says, I'm going to create the human being, and the angels should sajada, which is not worshipping him, but here as it is said in this translation, obey him, serve him, acknowledge the position the human has on earth. And the Quran gives a definition of the position that was given to our first parents, Adam and Eve, Adam and Hawa in Arabic. In Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, in verse 30, it is said, Behold, your Lord said to the angels, I will create a vice regent on earth. And they said, Will you place therein one who will make mischief therein and shed blood, while we do celebrate your praises and glorify your holy name? He said, I know what you don't know. The word used here in Arabic for vice regent is the word khalif. A khalif in Arabic is a manager, a steward, somebody who gets a responsibility over something, who is accountable to take care of that property. It could be an amount of money, it could be a land, it could be any position in a company. And this is the word used here. The Khalif of God is Adam. Adam, in other words, gets the responsibility to take care of planet Earth, for the well-being of nature, the animals, the plants, everything. And we see that the angels are protesting against God and say, God, are you sure you want to do this? Why do they protest? Just because the devil has told them God is not rightful. God is doing a mistake. God is not wise by doing this. And we should tell it to God, and we should rebel against this. In other words, if I was God, Satan, I would do it better. So this is the idea we have here in this text from the Quran. The same idea is found in Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible, in verse 26, where it is said, Genesis 1:26, God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds in the air, over the cattle, all over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Especially some Muslim people are shocked by the idea that the man is made at the image of God. Because, of course, both books forbid us to make any image of God. What is meant here is not that God looks like us or we look like God. And I want to make it a little bit hilarious by giving you an example. You see, a cow or any animal has two eyes and a nose, like a human being. But the cow is not made at the image of God, which means that God doesn't have two eyes and a nose. That's not what is meant. And to really know what it means that we are created at the image of God, we have to ask one question. What is the difference between a human being and a cow? And the answer is very simple. If you put a cow in an airplane and you bring it down with a parachute, anywhere in the world, in the Sahara, in the mountains of Himalaya, in the jungle of Amazonas, anywhere in the world, the cow will instinctively refuse to eat a certain amount of plants. I think it's 72 different kinds of plants. No matter in the world, the cow knows that if it eats this plant or that plant, it will just die or will be sick. This is what we call instinct. The animal knows exactly this is not good. A turtle, for example, turtles love to eat peaches, but they just bite a little bit. If they ate a full peach, they would die. So they eat a little bit. But what about us human beings? We go to a restaurant, we're invited for dinner, and we eat much more than what we know we are supposed to eat. Or we eat things that are poisonous. We take some substances that destroy our body, that defies our intelligence. We know it's wrong, but we still do it. And that's the difference between a cow and a human being, if I want to say. The freedom of a human being to choose to do something right or to do something evil. Now, if we read the text here, the Quran and the Bible, we'll find much more differences. Of course, the first difference is that the man was responsible for planet Earth. He had a responsibility. He was the right hand, if I may say so, of God on planet Earth. Secondly, he had the choice to follow a good or a wrong way. Also, he could talk with God face to face. God gave him the honor to be a kind of partner on the garden. And there are many other things, like, of course, the intelligence human beings have, the possibility to, not to create, but to invent things, to develop things, an ability that animals do not have, for example. Let us spend a little bit of time on the subject of freedom. As we have seen in our picture with the flowers, remember at the beginning, Hans gave Hannah the freedom to follow him or not. What about God? In the same way, if I may say so, God gave to human beings a way to obey or to show their disobedience. And this way is what we know as the tree of knowledge that was in the garden, the beautiful garden where God had put Adam and Eve. In Al-Araf, in the Quran, Surah 7, it is said in verse 19, God speaks to Adam, "O Adam, dwell you and your wife in the garden and enjoy its good things as you wish. But do not approach this tree, or you will run into harm and transgression." We have the same idea in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 2, where it said in verse 16-17, the Lord God commanded the man, saying, "Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." Please notice that the text doesn't say it's forbidden to eat from it. God just said, do not eat. It can be a command, it can be an advice, it can be a request. God gives the man the freedom to eat, but says, please don't do it. And he explains why. He says, if you eat from it, you will die. So don't do it. God shows the consequences. Love gives freedom, and love gives ample information of what is going to happen if we go this way or if we go that way. And that's why the Bible is full of information, showing us the right way, how to follow God. What happens if we follow Him? What happens if we don't follow Him? Some people are shocked to see that even some prophets in the Bible did some wrong things. And they are shocked. They say, they are men of God, they should have done everything right. But remember that no one is perfect on earth. And that we are in the same situation, where the Bible wants to show us not only the right way, but what happens if we don't follow it. Which are the results of our disobedience towards God. So let's go back now to the Garden of Eden. God has put this tree, and He has said, you shall not eat of it. Before God does that, He says, look at all these trees. You can eat of all of them. They are just for you. Imagine a landlord who has found on the street of a big city a very poor man. And this landlord invites the poor man and tells him, this garden, my garden, belongs to you. Do you see this tree? The dates, the olives, the peaches, the grapes, everything. This belongs to you. You can eat as much as you want. Don't you think that this poor man would be happy to enjoy this beautiful garden, the food, delicious, everything that is in this garden? So beautiful. We think he would be filled with gratitude toward this nice landlord. Wouldn't he be? Of course he would be. But suppose that the landlord say, my friend, you can enjoy of all the trees, but please, you see there's one tree up there. Please don't touch this tree. The landlord would not even necessarily explain why. He would just say, don't eat of this. Now, of course, if you were this poor man, filled of gratitude for what the landlord had done for you, you probably would not touch the tree, right? But what would happen if you touched the tree? Probably the landlord will be very, very sad. Now, this is the situation we have with Adam and Eve. God gave them beautiful nature. And when you travel, you discover how many different fruits there are in different countries. It's unbelievable. As I said, I've lived in Thailand and I've been traveling in many, many countries. And all the time, wow, there are new fruits, new kinds of dates. When I go to Saudi Arabia, I bring 20 kilo in my luggage, just dates from all kinds, these nice black Median dates and all of them. And everybody is happy because they have never seen that in Europe. So good. My friends, God is so good. Despite of the destruction of our planet through sin, through selfishness, through wars and injustice, we still have a glimpse of eternity, a glimpse of the Garden of Eden when we go into nature. Everywhere in the world, nature is beautiful, no matter if it's desertic or in the snow or in the jungle. Everything is just beautiful because God has made a world that was beautiful. But believe me, the world in the time of Adam and Eve was much more beautiful than that. And we don't understand why Adam and Eve ate the fruit. But before we ask the question, why did they eat the fruit and what would happen after that? We have to ask another question. And maybe I think you are able to answer this question if you have followed exactly what I have said so far. My friend, the question is, why did God create this tree of the knowledge of evil and good? Why did God create this forbidden tree? Was the tree poisonous maybe? Was the fruit not good? Why did God do this? So Satan, he's making himself a little bit like a stupid man, who says, I think I didn't understand right what happened. Can you please explain me this? Also, Satan is comparing Adam and Eve to animals. And he say, Adam and Eve, can it be that you have no right to eat of all these beautiful trees? Like the animals? Wow, I think you are like animals. Their eyes were opened. They suddenly realized that they knew what is good and what is evil. You just trust what you hear and you step away from it. But the devil says, as long as you have not tried, how do you know? And this is a very dangerous way of thinking, you see. I could say, for example, I don't know what happens when I jump down the 5th floor of a building. So let's try and then I will know. Well, the human being has as first reaction to try to cover his shame, to cover his transgression, to let the show go on as if nothing happened.